Hello friends, welcome to the Cold War Prepper. My name is Lee. So I'm about ready to start that series that I've wanted to do. One of my main intentions behind having a YouTube channel, and that is talking about meals and talking about eating after SHTF. So just a couple of real quick things. Well, let me start off with hi. Welcome to the Cold War Prepper. My name is Lee. I'm just excited about this subject because I love to eat. If you can see my belly, you know, I used to tell people I was a perfect 68, and I had a 34-inch waist and a 34-inch inseam when I was on active duty, and just felt really good and strong, you know, 185. And now I still have that same 68, but it's 38-30, you know, so it's kind of bulged out and shrunk down, but still 68, so I guess I'm accomplishing something, but I do love to eat. So when I look back at, you know, when I started this back in 1962 during the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, we had boat rations, we had, you know, pilot bread and stuff like that, and maybe beef jerky and little cans of dried ham that you can still get in these little jars at the grocery stores today, and Spam, of course. Yoder's bacon, we had canned bacon back then, but, you know, pretty much there wasn't that much variety, so most of it was going to be canned goods and other long-term stuff. But when you kept it in a cinder block fallout shelter in the backyard, especially in El Paso, Texas, when it's 112 degrees outside, most of that stuff doesn't last too long. So, you know, eating back then was not what it is now. So I want to walk you through planning and eating in an SHTF environment. So back in the 90s, I was an instructor with the Covey Institute, and Stephen L. Covey had a fantastic book, probably a very paramount book, called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And habit number 7 was sharpen the saw. And so you had to come up with a plan, and they had this planning document that was really fantastic. So if you look at it, you've got the month, you've got the days of the month 1 through 31, then you have 4 rows. And so I use this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I've got the 31 days of July here, so I can put in, let's say on day number 1, I'm going to have breakfast number 1, lunch number 1, and dinner number 1. So now I go to my card system, which is the way I do it, and here I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and so each card has, you know, let's say that breakfast number 1 is scrambled eggs, diced ham, hashed brown potatoes, peaches, canned peaches, and coffee, and a fortified orange drink like Tang. So now I would know that those 5 components have to be purchased when I go to the store in order to have one complete breakfast. And then I would do the same thing for lunch. And let's say for lunch I'm having pasta and marinara sauce, so spaghetti basically. And we're going to have the leftover ham from breakfast is going to be thrown into the marinara sauce for lunch. And we're going to have a 3-bean salad, a can of Reed's 3-bean salad is going to be our vegetable. And then we're going to have some sort of a fruit for dessert as well. So maybe a can of pears, a small 6-ounce can of pears. Now I need to pick up those 4 things: pasta, sauce, and maybe even a jar of mushrooms to throw into the sauce or something like that. But now you see how we're getting this idea of we're going to have an entire day's worth of food that we're going to go purchase at one time. And then we keep track of that here, as well as the planning on the cards. So then where this really becomes powerful is because when SHTF happens, a couple of things are going to happen. Number 1, let's take a scenario that I go to bed tonight, and tomorrow morning I wake up and we have electricity, but all of our neighbors don't. So they're afraid that all their freezer goods and all their refrigerator goods are going to go bad. So they're going to start cooking all those frozen and refrigerated goods before they go bad. And you know what? In order to be the gray man, I have to do what they're doing. So I'm going to do the same thing. But then all of a sudden on day 4, they're running out of food. You know, they're starting to cook into canned goods. I need to do the same thing, switch over to canned goods. Then on day 6 or 7, they've run out of their canned goods and they're starving. Well, it would not do me any good to be out in the backyard grilling if my neighbors are all starving. I'm going to have a whole bunch of unwanted guests and uninvited guests very quickly. So I want to be kind of gray man. I don't want them to know that I'm eating well. I'm the fat man in the land of the starving while they're starving. So there's a couple things we can do about that. So that's why we need to have a holistic approach in planning our meals. We're going to use frozen foods. We're going to use fresh foods that are refrigerated. We're going to use fresh produce. We're going to use long-term storage items such as rice, beans that we can put in, that we can can ourselves or prepare for long-term for ourselves. We're going to use canned goods. We're going to use dehydrated goods. We're going to use freeze-dried goods. Everything has a time and a place. And so when you have a plan that you've begun with, then you can alter that plan as necessary to relate to the local conditions of where you are. Now, you have to be careful also when you're doing this, because there are two different kinds of freeze-dried or dehydrated foods. So this is Thrive Life's freeze-dried egg powder. Okay, so this is raw egg powder. So you're going to take 1 tablespoon of this powder, 1 tablespoon of water, stir it up, and it looks just like a beaten egg in a cup. And then you're going to have to cook that. So you're going to have a pan, flame, some sort of oil or grease, butter to cook your eggs in. You're going to have to actually cook those. So we're producing a lot of energy. We're also producing a lot of odor. And your neighbors may know that you're cooking. So this may not be the best solution for you right after SHTF. Maybe a year down the line, when it's thinned out quite a bit, that would be a great idea, but not right now. Maybe right now what you need is something like this. This is freeze-dried after it's been cooked. So this is an entire meal, basically. I would like to add some meat to it, some protein, but this has got 40 enhancements as far as vitamins, nutritions, minerals, and all those kinds of things. So, it's kind of been taken into account. I think it even has a fairly good protein count. It's got 12 grams of protein and vitamin D, just, right like it is right now without enhancing it. But the nice thing about this is all you do is boil some water and add a little bit of boiled water to it. Because this is already cooked, you're just rehydrating a cooked meal. And you're using the boiling water. What you're doing is you're warming it up at the same time. So you pour this, let's say, into a canteen cup. Pour in your boiling water, cover it, let it simmer for about 5 minutes, fluff it up, and eat it. There's no cooking. So, your neighbors aren't going to know that you're eating well. So that's a beautiful thing about this is when you have things that are already pre-cooked, and then you aren't giving away to your neighbors everything that you have and that you're eating well. So we're going to begin here in the very near future. I'm going to give you ideas about breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you can copy those if you want to, come up with your own. But I do recommend you create a spreadsheet so that you have 3 rows. All your columns are going to be your days of the month and then your months, and come up with a numbering system, and then create your menus and put those menus in some sort of a collection. It could even be a Word file. I just happen to like 5x8 cards. I guess I'm a product of the 60s education system. So anyhow, that's where we are. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the course of the next several while. But one fallacy used to be very appropriate, and now it's no longer appropriate. I used to say, pick up 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, 1 dinner every time you go shopping, and you'll be okay. Well, the problem with that is if you go shopping once a week and you pick up 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, 1 dinner, you've taken care of 1 day. Now you're going to need 365 weeks, okay? Or about 7 years to get 1 year's worth of food. And I don't think that's going to do you too well. So you may have to double up on that. You may have to look at things you can divide up, maybe things you can reuse, use it for 2 different meals on that same day, whatever the case. But, we do need to speed things up. I think things are going to get bad here in a pretty good hurry. I'm trying to give you some ideas on how we can mitigate that and how we can make it easy. So remember, we're all in this together, so we can come out the other end together. Take care. This is Lee. Bye-bye.